Is becoming a CRNA worth the debt? It's the biggest bet in nursing. 3 years, no income, 6 figures of tuition. So here's the math. It makes sense purely on the numbers. CRNA is the highest return credential in nursing. The median CRNA makes $236,590, which is $139,000 a year more than the median RN. This is according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics. Even counting $180,000 in tuition, 3 years of zero or no income, and the loan interest, the median CRNA is back to even at about 6 years after starting school and roughly $1.8 million ahead at year 20. So the debt isn't the risk. It's the 3 years of no income and the new federal loan caps that you need to be aware of. Let me show you both. Let's look at the income boost first. These come from federal numbers, May 2025 survey of national medians. The registered nurse makes $97,550. A nurse anesthetist makes $236,590. That's again $139,000 a year more than the median CRNA makes, which is 2.4 times the median RN. And unlike a lot of average salary numbers, this one holds up at the low end. The 25th percentile CRNA makes about $206,000. That's still more than double the median RN. The top quarter clears $294,000. So when someone asks, is it really over $200,000? Yes, 3/4 of CRNAs are over $200,000 per year in income. Now let's talk about costs, not just what the program charges, but what it costs overall. Using the midpoint numbers of published program costs, tuition is roughly $180,000. Doctoral programs are 36 months, and this is the number everyone fixates on. But many programs explicitly prohibit employment and require you to sign a contract or an agreement promising not to work just because the academic and professional stakes are so high. Breaking this rule can lead to dismissal, which is obviously nobody wants that. Some programs do allow nurses to do PRN or as-needed part-time work, particularly during initial semesters, but force you to stop once clinicals begin. 36 months of not working at an RN median salary is $292,650 of wages you don't earn. That's the biggest cost, more than the tuition. And if you're an ICU nurse with overtime making $120,000 a year, your cost is $360,000, not $292,000. If you borrow half the tuition at this year's federal graduate rate and add the interest on the loan of $57,000, the total is $530,000. Tuition is about a third of it. The real cost of CRNA school is the 3 years you can't work or work very minimally, and nobody puts that on the brochure. Here's the part that changed this year. Until July 2026, a CRNA student could borrow the full cost of attendance through Grad PLUS. That's gone for new borrowers, and the caps that replaced it are now law. There are now 2 tiers. Programs that count as professional degrees get $50,000 a year or $200,000 total. Every other graduate program gets $20,500 per year at a $100,000 total. A 36-month CRNA program is 3 academic years, so even under the professional tier, the federal maximum is $150,000. Against $180,000 in potential tuition, that's a $30,000 gap if you're borrowing all of it, and living expenses come out of the same group. The good scenario still doesn't cover the full cost of the program. The tough part is which tier nursing is in. The Department of Education's final rule, published this spring, left nursing off the professional degree list. On June 24th, a federal judge blocked that definition. 5 days later, the department told schools to treat MSN, DNP, DNAP as professional degrees. CRNA programs award the DNP and DNAP, so right now, nurse anesthesia is covered. But it's interim. The department said so. The case is still in court. A 4th lawsuit was filed in August, and the House bill that would write nursing into law has cleared committee but has yet to pass. One more thing, if you're already in a program, there is a grandfather clause. If you were enrolled and borrowing before July 1st, 2026, you keep the old limits for up to 3 more years, as long as you stay continuously enrolled. If you take a semester off, it could be gone. That's the actual risk in CRNA debt, not the size of the debt as much, but the kind, and which tier you're in on the day you sign. Say you do borrow the full $180,000, assuming $150,000 in federal loan, $30,000 in private loans, and call it 8.07% across all the loans, just to keep math simple. Interest accrues while you're in school, so you graduate owing about $201,000. On a standard 10-year repayment, that's $2,456 per month. On the median CRNA salary, that payment is 12.5% of your gross pay. It's real, but survivable. After the payment, you're still earning about $110,000 a year more than the median RN before taxes. Total interest over the life of that loan, including the in-school accrual, it's $114,000. That's the price of the 3 years, and it's why the real cost number isn't necessarily the tuition. Let's look at all 20 years to compare your cumulative position versus the nurse who stayed at the bedside, starting the day you enroll. It's a deep hole at first, for sure. At graduation, 3 years in, you're $382,000 behind. The cash you paid plus the 3 years of wages you didn't earn. Then the $134,000 premium starts going to work. By year 5, you're $134,000 behind. You cross zero at month 73, 6 years after your first class, about 3 years after you graduate. And then it runs away. 10 years in, you're $487,000 ahead. 20 years in, $1.8 million ahead, after tuition, after lost wages, and after interest payments on those loans. If you land at the 25th percentile of CRNA pay, and break even is 7 years, and the 20-year number is $1.3 million. If you land at the upper end, the 75th percentile, it's about 5 years to pay off and $2.8 million ahead. There is no version of this at any percentile where finishing the program loses money over a career. That's why they call it the highest return credential in nursing. 4 things this chart doesn't show. You have to finish. Every number here assumes you graduate and pass the boards. The nurse who leaves in year 2 has the debt and lost wages, plus no extra premium income. That's generally the bad outcome, and it's the one that you need to plan against. Number 2, you can't start tomorrow. Programs want 1 to 2 years of ICU experience, and admission is pretty competitive. Add that to the timeline. And then there's number 3. 3 years with no paycheck is a problem for many nurses. Know if you plan to use savings, a partner's income, or borrowing past those federal caps before you apply, not after. And finally, number 4, median to median. If you're an experienced ICU nurse making well above the RN median, your foregone wages are bigger, and your first year CRNA offer may still sit below the median. Both move the break even a little bit later, not by enough to actually flip the answer, but enough to matter for when it will pay off. So, $139,000 per year more, $530,000 to get there, most of it wages, not tuition, 6 years to break even, $1.8 million ahead at year 20, and the risk isn't how much you borrow as much as it is how you borrow, now that those new caps are in. Your version starts with your pay. Put your actual rate into the free credential ROI calculator I built for nurses just like you. Enter your program cost, how much you'd actually borrow, your horizon on your timeline. It shows the total investment, the federal cap that applies, the gap, if there is one, the monthly payment, and that 20-year line. The link is in the description down below, or you can just scan that QR code. And if you're already a CRNA, please share your real pay on Gemma. It's 100% anonymous, and it helps the next nurse. Right now, the best number that we can find is a national average, and it's usually a year old. The day enough of you share, it's the state, your setting, your hours, and the ICU nurse deciding whether to take this bet gets a real answer. A $139,000 raise is the one raise in nursing that beats inflation by a mile. But for every nurse who doesn't go back to school, the question is whether their regular raise even keeps up. And the answer, over the last 10 years, is pretty uncomfortable. Watch this video next to see what actually happened to nurse pay versus inflation.